All right, guys, and we are now live with Phil Jones. Welcome to Extra Point.
All right, guys, welcome in to another week, our second week of our new format here on, now about to say, Extra Point with Phil Jones on Facebook, which is partly true. You can also now check out the show, don't forget, on our YouTube channel, as well as the ITG Next X platform, formerly known as Twitter. So, three different ways that you can watch the show. However you are watching us today, guys, welcome in. Of course, as always, want to welcome your comments to the show. We've got my man Flint Dykes, who is producing the show. Flint's going to chime in from time to time. Flint, as always, thanks so much for joining us, and thanks for pushing all the buttons and making sure that we stay live for the next hour.
Yes, sir, man. Thank you. Glad to be here, Phil.
Absolutely. And of course, today, let me turn that down. Today, we have no guest lined up. So you guys are my guest, other than Flint chiming in from time to time. So what does that mean? It's going to be more chances for you guys to say what you mean what you say, and comment on whatever you guys want to hear about. I'm going to get into the comments here in just a second. I want to welcome in everybody that's watching the show. You guys know the drill. Let me hear from you. Let me know what team you're rooting for. Let me know where you're checking out the show from. And remember, those two things not always one and the same. What we're going to cover today, big thing I'd like to talk about, spring football is now in the books across the state of Georgia. And guys, we had some pretty interesting storylines that came up over the last couple of weeks. I've talked to a number of coaches the last couple of days. I'm going to be sharing with you what the coaches have told me, kind of what what they were looking for from their teams over the last 10 days. Had several teams, of course, that had spring scrimmages against a true opponent. We had several that did inter-squad scrimmages. And, of course, we had some teams that elected not to do spring practice. But those were few and far between. But I'm going to talk to you about all the coaches that I had a chance to get some feedback from, and some pretty interesting storylines this spring, because I think there's more anticipation to the start of the 2025 high school football season if we are only here in the spring part of the season. All right. Before we get started, also, I want to, of course, thank our show sponsors. That would be our friends at Pepsi Cola, longtime sponsor of the show, my man Doyer Deloach and the gang out there at Pepsi, as well as Dr. Kevin Collins. Don't forget, if you need any kind of surgery, any kind of checkup done on your knees, elbows, anything is aging you, anything is bothering you, don't forget Kevin Collins, Dr. Kevin Collins, KevinCollinsMD.com. He's a great orthopedic surgeon. And for those of us that start to wear and tear from our days of tennis or whatever sport it is that you take part in, give my buddy Dr. Kevin Collins his office a call. Of course, the Houston Clinic, the best in the business at what they do with orthopedic injuries. All right. So we're going to check out. We got my man Greg Maddox checking in. Says, go Lowndes Vikings. Of course, I know we're talking high school football, but the Lowndes High Vikings baseball team going to be going for 3 in a row. That's over on the baseball side. Somebody made a comment this past week. Is Lowndes now becoming a baseball school? Look, what they say about all boats benefit from a rising tide. Well, I think that's the way it is at Lowndes. You know what? If your baseball team's winning multiple state championships, maybe that will inspire the football team to start doing the same. Of course, Lowndes has won their share of high school football state championships, just none recently. But for you Lowndes fans, I know you got your minds on baseball. We certainly want to get any updates that we can from that state championship series being played up there at Coolray Field. But let me know what you guys think about the Lowndes High Vikings football team. There's always a lot of conversation surrounding the Vikings. Adam Carter, he was brought back to Lowndes. I'll say brought back here to Lowndes because he wins the state championship up there at Grayson. Of course, kind of interesting. They're now the defending state champions are the Grayson Rounds, but Adam Carter got it done a few years back. That's the very reason the Lowndes High Vikings brought Adam Carter in to be the head coach of the Lowndes High football team. That they've got, one of the biggest, best looking indoor practice facilities in the state of Georgia. So a lot of reasons that Lowndes wants to do well in football. But let me know what you guys think. What do you hear? And how did Lowndes look? I have reached out to Adam Carter. I didn't hear back from him today, but anybody got any updates for me on the Lowndes High Vikings? Want to hear from you, including you, Greg Maddox. Thanks so much for checking in. Rodriguez Upshaw is checking out the show today. Says, what's going on, crew? Gainesville checking in. Go Big Red. And I want to bring my man Flynn. I asked Flynn about this. Of course, Flynn, I know you've been really big on Xavier Griffin, the big all-everything 5-star linebacker for Gainesville. You've been really high on him. You've been talking about you think he's a big reason why Gainesville is a team to watch. Of course, you also got the 4-star quarterback in Kareem Hughley. But the thing I wanted to mention about Xavier Griffin, do you guys realize that he is now the second straight 5-star Georgia high school recruit to back away from his commitment to the University of Southern California?
That's crazy to me. What do you think about that, Phil? I actually was scrolling through X, saw he decommitted, and I was like, wow, going in, this is senior year, right?
Yeah. Well, last year, the reason I brought that up, it was Juju Lewis last year, the 5-star quarterback out of Carrollton, who had been committed to University of Southern California for, I believe since before his junior season. Of course, remember, he reclassified. But then I just thought it was interesting when I heard last week, or whenever it was, about Griffin also decommitting from USC. It's kind of interesting. That's back-to-back Georgia's highest recruits backing away from Southern California. You just got to ask yourself, is that going to affect Southern Cal's recruiting of Georgia? I mean, they've been burned now 2 years in a row by one of, if not our state's highest recruits back-to-back seasons.
Yeah, and you wonder too, Phil, the question is why? I want to know why, and listen, I'll just kind of toss this in the hat, so to say. Do we think NIL has something to do with this now? We see a lot more players decommitting and committing. Is that a reason? You know what I mean? And listen, you can't blame them. If it is, why not? So what are your thoughts on that, Phil?
That's a very good question. That's one of the first things I thought about as well. First of all, I think we got to ask ourselves this. I would think USC is going to be as competitive as anybody with NIL. I certainly think teams start to up the ante. We saw that happen with my man from Lee County, the running back who committed to Georgia. And then, of course, Florida State comes with more money. And I think that's affecting a lot of the recruiting choices. But you know what? It's another thing to consider, Flint, and for you guys, and I'd love to hear you guys checking in on this and get your input, especially you, Rodriguez, you being from Gainesville, being a Gainesville fan. It's a long way to go, man, from Georgia to Southern California in more ways than one. It's all the way across the United States. I mean, if you're looking to take a flight, that's the farthest you can go by staying in the lower 48. Point being, if you want to go back home or you want your parents to come see you play, that's going to take a pretty big investment. So that's one thing to consider. And I'm just wondering if it's all the glitz and the glamour, the Hollywood lights, the bright lights of Southern California that is rather intriguing to these young, impressionable athletes. And then as time goes on and reality starts to kick in, and of course, you got to remember, University of Southern California is not one of your more prominent winning football programs, not of late anyway. So I think there's other factors that you got to take into consideration in addition to sort of the NIL battle that we see all major colleges kind of go against each other with.
And Phil, it looks like, too, we got a lot of people from Tift County checking in. Adam goes, is it a culture thing with the NIL? I just think it's a way of life now. You know what I mean? I think everybody just has to get used to it. It's here and it's not going anywhere. And, it provides a lot of opportunity for kids as well. And, good and bad can come with NIL. But overall, I think it's just everybody has to get used to it. Wouldn't you agree, Phil?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah. So speaking of Tift County, I'm glad you mentioned Tift County. I do see Mac Foster is checking in. Phil, what's up, Phil Jones? Tift County's in the house. And on cue, we're certainly going to talk about Tift County. Brooks Carter checking in, letting us know about Early County. So I want to go back to Tift County for a second. So listen, I had posted a couple of weeks ago when all the upcoming spring games were being talked about. I said, this Tift County Hughes game is one of the more intriguing games. In fact, I wrote, had a couple of paragraphs. We posted a a story on it about the Tift County Langston Hughes game, because you don't see many spring contests feature two teams from opposite ends of the state. You know, a lot of teams, a lot of schools, when they get ready to do these games, these spring games that for the most part really don't mean a whole lot, they try to hold down expenses. But I thought it was kind of interesting, you know, when you see these two teams, one from the Atlanta area coming all the way down 3-4 hour trip to take on a South Georgia school again for a spring game. Now, I did find out how and why that game came about. I talked to Coach Hines earlier today, and he told me they were not even going to play another opponent. They were just going to do an inter squad like we see a lot of teams do. Well, he told me this afternoon that he got a call, and I think it was all right. There we are. Glenn, are we back?
Yes, sir. We are back. Sorry about that, guys.
So I don't know where we cut off at, but guys, so Coach Hines had told me that, of course, you remember he was the offensive coordinator in 2022 whenever Langston Hughes racked up a record number of points during their state championship season. Anyway, he told me that they weren't even scheduled to play a state championship or a spring game. And then all of a sudden, the athletic directors got involved at Tift County and Hughes. And lo and behold, he found out that they were going to be not only playing a spring game, but they were going to be heading down to South Georgia to do it. Now, that being said, still, it was quite a challenge for Langston Hughes, even more the challenge for, of course, Tift County. Hughes playing for a state championship last year. But Coach Hines said, look, they were just really interested in getting a lot of the young guys in. I thought it was intriguing, though, the format they had for that game, the varsity, and a lot of teams did this year, this format, where the varsity played each other the first three quarters. And then the JV guys got in the last quarter. You know, a lot of times you'll see the ones versus ones for a half, and then you'll see the JV guys, the backups, go in the second half. But a lot of these teams, and I want to hear what you guys have to say about this, a lot of these teams, a lot of these coaches I see, even in the spring, they're wanting to see kind of what they've got. They're letting their number ones go for three quarters, and that's what we saw this spring. Again, Tift County and Hughes decided to go that format. And for those of you that may not have heard, Tift County, with the varsity squads going against each other, Tift County led at the end of that third quarter 21-14. And then in the fourth quarter, with just the JVs going against each other, the Hughes JV outscored Tift 7-0, technically making the final score 21-21. Still, though, pretty interesting result. If you're a Tift County fan, you got a lot to build off on that. And listen, I want to hear y'all's take on this. There's a lot of people saying, and of course, it really depends on which side you're on. Well, if you're on the losing side, it's only spring. That doesn't really mean anything. But of course, if you're on the winning side and you're trying to play for something, you're trying to build up some momentum for your program, well, you know what? It does mean something. And I think that's the case with the Tift County Hughes game. And just talking about that game in particular, but want to hear about if you guys, if your team was in a spring contest, let me know. Definitely want to hear about it. Obadiah Farley is checking in. Creekside is from the Atlanta area, and we played them Friday. You're absolutely right, Obadiah. I forgot about that. Those may be the only two matchups featuring Atlanta area teams and South Georgia team. In fact, Creekside, I imagine, had to come even farther than Hughes did to take on Thomas County Central. Certainly going to talk about that TCC game. I understand, and Obadiah, you can correct me if I'm wrong. TCC got out to a pretty big lead in that game. I think the final score 35-28, but when the varsities were taking on each other, it was 28-7. Thomas County Central over Creekside. Obadiah, certainly hope you can add to that, my friend. My buddy Rusty Cravey, Jick Dog, is checking in to the show. Rusty, what's up, man? Were you at the Tift County game? My buddy Rusty, a big Tift County fan. Rusty says Tift County going to walk the dog this year. Listen, as spring games go, this, and I'll call it win in air quotation marks, this win by Tift County, or at least this very strong performance and positive performance by Tift County, has got Tift County fans excited. Of course, they brought back the old navy blue helmets with the white face mask and the white tee. Gosh, when's the last time we saw that helmet? Rusty, I know that's going back a long ways, and everybody else is a Tift County fan. Adam Hips is checking in. Speaking of Tift County, Adam, what's up, my man? Adam Hips says, "Oh no, I'm talking the USC thing." Not sure what that's about, brother, but
that was referencing the culture. He was referencing the culture thing a while ago. He was talking about the USC, not NIL.
Okay, I got you. Yeah.
Yep.
Greg Maddox, Phil, do you know why they moved the state baseball championship from Truist Park to Coolray Field? I don't. I had wondered about that. I believe that started last year, didn't it? Good question. I would imagine it may have started because of a scheduling conflict. And of course, I would imagine also, Greg, that there's probably a lot less expense in holding it at Coolray Field, which is a minor league stadium, versus holding it where the big boys play. That's just a guess. Just surmising on that. So we got a new name in here that I haven't recognized before, haven't seen before. Azilius Ferguson checking in from Lincoln County. The Red Devils are in the house. Man, there's a lot of tradition there with Lincoln County. Would love to hear from you. And I'm hoping I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Azilius. Would love to hear more from you as we go forward. All right. Who else? We got David Woods checking in from the Grayson Rams country. David, what's up, my man? Got a lot to be excited about, I know, with Grayson. Another thing, we talked about this briefly last week. We can certainly get into it this week. Guys, I think this is going to be the year of the repeat. This is going to be the year of the repeat state champions. I think most of your 2024 state champions are going to be looking at a repeat situation this year. I think Grayson is a shoe-in. I talked to some Carver Columbus fans, including my buddy Deshaun Suggs, who said that they looked really good the other night. Now, they played what we call a jamboree, where you had 3 different teams involved. You had Carver Columbus taking on New Manchester. You had Carver Columbus taking on Douglas County. According to Deshaun, Carver Columbus pretty much had their way, albeit in they play halves, one half against both teams. And you had Carver defeating New Manchester 14-0, and then Carver defeating Douglas 14-7. Again, both of those in one half of football each. But Carver, without a doubt, kind of like Grayson, I think they are an absolute shoe-in to repeat as state champions this year. So, David, thanks so much for being a part of the show, my man, and checking us out. All right, let me hear your comments. We got my buddy Rosser Sutherland. And by the way, guys, if you do see me look away, that is simply me checking out my phone. I've got my cell phone over here to the right of the screen, and I'm kind of checking out your comments while I'm talking to you guys on camera. So, my buddy Rosser Sutherland, hello from Marietta. Don't know what to take from our inter-squad scrimmage, but we're already indoctrinating my week-old nephew to love the Blue Devils. Well, of course, man, you got to keep it all in the family, right? And I will say this, Roster, and there's another connection. If you notice that we've talked about several of our teams already, and we're going to be talking about more teams as we go throughout the program today. So all of the teams we've talked about so far, what do we have in common? New coaches. Of course, you got Tift County. Jeff Littleton is in his second season, but I mentioned Coach Hines at Langston Hughes. Now, even though he's new, even though he coached there in 2022 as the offensive coordinator, remember he left for a year, and now he's back as the head coach. So technically, yes, he is a first-year head coach there, back with his old team in Houston. Of course, you got Northside. I mentioned Northside, Warner Robins. By the way, I was told, and I think this was 2 weeks ago, is one of the shows that we did at Big Nick's, and we do thank our buddy Big Nick over at Big Nick's. We enjoyed our time there. But one of the last shows we did there at Big Nick's, somebody informed me, hey, it's not Northside Warner Robins, Phil. It's just Northside. Point taken. So old habits are hard to break. So if I do say Northside won a Robbins, you'll have to excuse me. But Northside, they defeat Mount Zion by a 14-7 score. That according to the first-year head coach, Coach Boone, Coach Daniel Boone Williams, of course, formerly of Hughes, now taking over at Northside. Here's another thing in Rosser Sutherland checking in from Marietta. So you got Marietta, you've got Northside, you've got Tift. I'm going to be talking about Parkview. You got Roswell we'll be talking about. Not so much Roswell, but Tift, Hughes, Marietta. What is the common theme with those teams? Once proud football programs trying to find their way back. Rosser, I know, of course, your Marietta Blue Devils, they've been trying to get back to their winning ways. What, last state championship? What was that, my man? Rosser 5-6 years ago. You've got yourself a new coach there in Coach Cameron. Coach Cameron Duke coming up from Edgewater down there in Orlando. Used to talk to him quite a bit when he was down in Florida. He's a good coach. He certainly did great things down at Edgewater. And, of course, now I know you Marietta fans are hoping going to be able to do the same thing. Stephen Tate checking in from Coffee County. In fact, Stephen says sitting here at Coffee Middle School for the oldest crossover. Now, what do you mean by that, Steve? Enlighten us on that, my man. Jason Michael Richmond checking in, listening from Perry. Spring ball game was on the 14th, Jamboree style. Who were, by the way, my man, Coach Brian DeBerry up at Grayson, checking in with me, just told me that, Phil, we did not play another opponent. So they had an inter-squad scrimmage there, the defending Class 6A state champions. So I didn't know if they had played anybody or not. Again, if I haven't mentioned your team, guys, let me hear from you. Who did your favorite team play in the spring? And if so, how did they look? Did they play an opponent? And did they keep score? I don't know how you guys feel about it. Look, I want to keep score. I understand these spring games don't mean anything. I get it. But by golly, even if it's unofficial, and of course, spring games are unofficial scores, but I love what Tift County did, keeping the scoreboard on last week. I was getting those updates from Tift County, and man, believe me, they had the scoreboard on and live. I love that. Hey, listen, it don't matter what you're playing, if it's going to count, if it's not going to count. By golly, keep score. I promise you, the kids pay attention to it. They want to do it. But Jason Michael Richmond, getting back to you, my man. How did Perry look? I know you mentioned it was just a jamboree, but Perry, of course, 2 years removed from their last state championship. Man, you win that state title, and it gets in your blood, and, man, you really want to get back to it, don't you? My man, Flint is going to lay down. He's going to lay down and take a nap. I love it. Jerry Harrison is checking in from Monroe area. Hi, what's up there in the middle part of the state? Jerry Harrison, what's up, my man? Greg Maddox, yes, they did play at Truist. Are you sure about that, Greg? Talking about the state championship game, I thought they played that one at Coolray Field last year, but I could be wrong. Delvin the GOAT. Definitely something to build on. 2-8 last year. I predict 7-3. Now, Delvin, I'm assuming you're a Tift County fan. And listen, I've been hearing a lot. I will say this. Tift County fans have been chiming in probably more so than anything. And again, that's a byproduct of when you are a team that's been struggling. Once mighty proud Tift County program. And I don't talk a lot about Tift County, but I'll talk about your program. If you want me to, just chime in. Let me know where you're checking out the show from. But got all these Tift County fans who are excited about their team. And that's the thing I love about spring football practice. You only get 10 days. I get it. You can only glean so much from 10 days. I get that. But you know what? You can pull the positives from anywhere. And that's the thing about being and having a positive attitude. Of course, talk with Jeff Littleton. He's very excited about the the direction the program's going. I will say this. We did a Tift County game last year. It was the Colquitt County game of the week. Speaking of the game of the week, guys, I've got an update for you guys about some of the game of the weeks I've already secured for us here at ITG. It's going to be, if the 5 games that I've got are any indication, it's going to be the strongest slate of games that we have ever had. But I'll be talking a little bit more about those games that I've got logged in here in just a minute. But speaking of Tift County, speaking of the game of the week, we did that Tift County Colquitt game last year. Yes, Tift County lost, but man, they gave the Packers all they could handle. And in the end, it showed me a Tift County team that was on their way back. Quarterback Damian Dixon is back, and he's only a junior, so he's still got another season left on top of this one. Also, something else, and we'll certainly talk about more spring football games. If you guys want me to talk about your team, give me some feedback. Where was your team playing? Who did your team play? How did they look? Give me some feedback, and I will certainly talk about them. One thing I was going to mention, and one thing that I've heard from several of these coaches, including our buddy Coach Boone, who I mentioned earlier up at Northside, he mentioned the fact that they started an 8th grader at quarterback. And I wrote his name down here somewhere. I'll see if I can find it. Oh, here it is. They started an 8th grade quarterback, J.D. Garman. Guys, this is something I'm starting to see and hear more of. You know, it used to be where you never considered playing an 8th grader. You really even hesitated about putting a true freshman on the field. But we're starting to see more and more of that as we go forward. More and more coaches are turning to 8th graders, who, of course, are going to be rising freshmen. Then you got the freshmen that'll be rising sophomores. But starting to see more and more of that. Want to get y'all's take on that. Hey, listen, if they couldn't play, coaches wouldn't put them out there. But I think it's a sign of the times that we're starting to see these youngsters, these younger players, these 8th graders, as we saw again with Northside. J.D. Garman, Coach Boone certainly pointed that out to me earlier, and I wanted to mention that. Just starting to see more and more of that. I know Buford has got a couple of young running backs that are going to see playing time this year as true freshmen. So if your program has got one, let me hear from you. My buddy Andrew Watkins checking in. He says Daugherty dominated in the spring jamboree against Mitchell County, 16-0. By the way, Flint, I wanted to mention, I know that you're checking out comments on our X platform and YouTube. So if you got any comments coming in that maybe I can't see, I'm simply monitoring Facebook right now. So let me know if you. I'm hoping Flint heard that.
There we go, Phil. I think you cut out on me a little bit there. No, we're all caught up, though.
Yeah, if you got any comments coming in across our other 2 platforms, certainly fill me in on those. I've just got the platform or the Facebook platform pulled up. Jason Michael Richmond says Perry, Howard, Northeast, and Warner Robins. So no scores were kept. I'm new to the area, so unsure who is who. All teams scored on each other with a mix of first and second string players. So Jason Michael Richmond, tell us where you're from, my man, and what do you think about Georgia high school football? And hopefully you will be a part of our show. We do this every week, and man, this is all we talk about is high school sports, 99% of it high school football. So love to hear from where you are from and how big was high school sports, high school football, how prevalent was it wherever it was you came from. My man Dwayne Little is checking us out from Laredo, Texas. Brooks County in the house from Laredo, Texas. Somebody was keeping up, by the way. I saw this. Somebody was posting the Brooks County spring game. I couldn't tell if it was against an opponent or if it was just an inter-squad scrimmage. But I tell you, that's the beauty of these live streaming games everybody's doing now. Is no matter where you are, you can certainly keep up with your favorite team. So I love that. But Let me know where you guys are checking out the show from. And again, Jason Michael Richmond. I'm not going to keep saying your full name, Jason, but tell me where you're checking, where you're from, man, and welcome to the area. Oscar Miles checking out the show. Oscar Miles says, "What's football without the score? Got to have the score, scrimmage or not." Oscar, I'm right there with you, my man. 100%. I don't care if it's marbles. I don't care if it's chips. I don't care what it is. Got to keep score. David Woods, yes, confirming what Coach DeBerry did earlier in a squad scrimmage at Grayson. Collins Hill looked really good against Norcross. Norcross, of course, a change in coaches there. Man, a lot of new coaches making their debut in these spring games, including Norcross. Keith Maloof finally stepping down after, I don't know. He was one of the longest tenured coaches in the state of Georgia, was Maloof. But he is out. But Collins Hill went over to Norcross and looked good. My buddy Drew Swick, the head coach, trying to get those Eagles back to the days of Travis Hunter and another state championship run. I want to mention real quick, speaking of Travis Hunter, and I know I'm jumping around here, but it's how my mind works. Keeping you guys on your toes. Travis Hunter, I had predicted that he was going to become the first true two-way player in a long time in the NFL. Loved it when the Jacksonville Jaguars, they're one of my favorite teams. Of course, they're kind of the team closest to us here where we broadcast from in Valdosta, even though we are a statewide company. But as an NFL fan, I've always grew up loving the Falcons, but the Jacksonville Jaguars, an AFC team, give me something to root for on that side of the ledger. But I predicted that Travis Hunter would be the first true two-way player in a long time in the NFL. Remember, that's how he wanted the NFL commissioner to introduce him at the draft. I don't know if the commissioner did that or not, Roger Goodell. But he certainly wants to be a two-way player with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, Flynn, I know you're down in Jacksonville. If you want to chime in on that, give me your thoughts. I mean, look, he proved he could do it in high school. He proved he could do it in college. Remember, he goes from Jackson State, then he goes to Colorado, and he was able to do it both places pretty well. I don't see how you can bet against Travis Hunter becoming a two-way player at the NFL level.
No, I can tell you here, though, Phil, the hype is real, which kind of scares me, man. I hate being a Jags fan, but I am. People have. I'll tell you this though, and which I don't agree with this, but there's some videos that have came out from some Jags practices saying that his route running is nowhere near up to par. It's kind of saying there's a similarities with Jamar Chase when he first came into the league, saying that he wasn't really proficient in his route running. That being said, I think he was more of a DB, but I think he'll be ready before season gets here. But there has been, there's rumors circulating that his route running is not NFL caliber. I will say that. People are talking about that.
Interesting. And I appreciate you chiming in with that, Flint. And Flint, for you guys that don't know, he's down in the chat list down in the Jacksonville area. Listen, and part of me is not really that surprised. Listen, there's a big jump, big learning curve. And would love to hear what you guys have to say about this. Big learning curve when you go to the NFL, no matter how good you are in college. Point being, look how many great collegiate players that have not made it, that have not made the jump to the NFL, to the pro level. Becoming a pro becomes a whole different plateau, becomes a whole different level. And there's a reason only a very few actually make it in the pros. You can be really good at high school level. You can really be really good at the collegiate level, but you've got to be extraordinarily good to make it in the NFL level. And really that goes at the professional level for any sport. Having said that, I think Travis Hunter will overcome that. I think he's got the absolute, just pure, raw ability, unlike anybody we've ever seen. So not totally surprised, Flint, that there's been a bit of a learning curve with the route running.
Right.
But I think he'll be okay once it's all said and done, making the jump to the National Football League.
I'll never bet against Travis Hunter. I'll take that type of guy. You know what I mean? He's just a dog. You can't teach that. So, yeah, I'll put all my chips on Travis. I think people will always, we'll hear these things come out of camp saying things all the time. I think when the lights come on, you can't teach what he has. You know what I mean? It's like you can be a really great athlete, but I think he's a good young man in general, man. I've read a story about him helping a lady on the plane with her bags. Just a really humble guy. I don't think you can teach what he has. I think he's a really cool dude.
I'm laughing, and I agree with you, Flint, 100%. I wouldn't bet against Travis Hunter either. Rufus is the man, Mr. Colquitt County. Colquitt County's number one fan. Rufus is the man. Says, just give Travis a Lamborghini. Oh, listen, he'll have enough money. He probably already has enough money to give him a Lamborghini. No doubt about that. I love it. I absolutely love it. David Wood, so true, Phil. But it's early. Just give Travis time. Yeah, I just think that, natural learning curve, right, guys? Going from the collegiate level to the pros. Stephen Gore checking in says, Jason Michael Richmond, you came to the right place. Football big in Houston County. Welcome. Man, it certainly is big there in Middle Georgia. And Houston County has definitely become a hotbed for high school football. You've got the emergence of the Houston County Bears. You've got the emergence of the Perry Panthers. Remember, those two programs, and I don't mean any this is not knocking either of those programs. No disrespect meant to either the Panthers or the Bears. Two great coaches come in there and made the difference. But they used to be the doormat of high school football in the Houston County area in Middle Georgia. Well, that is no longer. The Houston County Bears under Jeremy Edwards have got one of the more prolific offenses. It is going to be interesting to see what Houston County does, having to replace four-year starter A.J. Hill, who has made the leap to the University of Memphis, where I hear he's got a pretty good chance of starting for the Memphis Tigers as a freshman. We'll see how that comes about. All right, just checking out some of your other comments here. Bruce Carter says, Petula Charter Academy hired Timothy Brown as the new head football coach. I think he may be from Valdosta High School. Brooks, I'm not sure, buddy, but certainly we'll pass that along, and some of our other viewers that are watching the show can maybe answer that. Not sure. Rufus is the man. By the way, Rufus, I want to know, speaking of Colquitt Coffee, did anybody keep score? I talked to both coaches. Neither one knew. And that Colquitt Coffee spring game was a little bit different than most, as both coaches, Coach Mike Coe for Coffee and Coach Sean Calhoun for Colquitt, for the second year in a row, they both agreed to have a controlled scrimmage. So as spring games go, they don't really count. However, they do simulate a real game about as much as possible without keeping score. Especially if you have live special teams. It looks just like a regular football game. But at Colquitt and Coffee, I noticed that the coaches are on the field, kind of like you see in a practice, a regular practice, where you'll have the offensive coaches standing about 10 or 15 yards behind the offense. And on defense, it's the same thing, with the defensive coaches maybe a little bit deeper, especially when it's a passing situation. But that's how the controlled scrimmage was between Coffee and Colquitt, which I found pretty interesting. But I know at Coffee, they've got to replace Mr. Georgia High School rushing record holder, Ty Woodgett, Woodgett. Remember, guys, he runs for 700 yards in that playoff game against Sequoia. Are you kidding me? But Coach Coe has got a pretty good pipeline established there at Coffee. Got another great slew of running backs coming in there. So they're going to be just fine. But Rufus is the man. Tell me about Colquitt's quarterback situation. Did Cohen Lawson get hurt again? Remember, he missed a lot of last year. I'm not sure of exactly how many games. Of course, he was the true freshman last year that everybody was talking about. And I thought he had healed and he was back, but again, from what I'm hearing, that he got hurt again. But somebody, can y'all, Rufus says, demand, can you confirm that for me? Rufus also asked, can anybody slow the coffee Trojans down? Now that's interesting. I didn't see that first time I called on you, Rufus. Pretty interesting. Again, talking about Woodgett. Tyrese Woodgett. And we remember the year before that, the young man that led them to the state championship, he was our ITG Next Offensive Player of the Year, Fred Brown. So he was 2 years ago. Last year, it was Ty Woodgett. Now, who's it going to be this year? Probably KJ DeBruce, who split time with Ty Woodgett last year. So, man, let me tell you, they have got a slew of running backs established there at Coffee High. Let's see. Rufus's demand said Lawson had the hiccups, so they held him out. All right, you sure that was all it was? I hope that's all it was. All right, we have got an update on the Lowndes High Walton baseball Class 6A state championship. Best 2 out of 3 series going on up there at Coolray in Northeast Atlanta. Walton 4, Lowndes nothing. That's in the 4th inning, game 1 of the championship series. Roster Sutherland, thank you for that update. Remember now, Lowndes fans, don't get too excited. In that game 1 against Etowah last week, game 1 of that best 2 out of 3, I think Lowndes went down 4-1 in that game. Of course, was able to come back and win game 1, and then they cruise in game 2. So never count the Lowndes High Vikings out. But that's a baseball update for you. Thanks so much for that update, Roster Sutherland. Obadiah Farley, where did Fitzgerald, new head coach, come from? He come from Stevens County. And I don't remember, he got hired just before spring football practice would have started. So I don't know if they even had any spring there at Fitzgerald. Wes Tankersley, the new head coach at Fitzgerald. And conversely, the man that he replaced, Tucker Pruitt, of course, going to Appling County. I don't know if they had a spring practice over there at Appling as well. Keep your comments coming, guys. Let me hear from you. CJ Lane checking in. Cook Hornets checking in. We got some speed, especially on our defensive secondary. CJ, I released a story. We posted a story that I wrote. It posted last week, where I talk about keeping an eye on 5 dark horse football teams in the state. And your Cook High Hornets was one of those teams. Bringing back 19 of 22 starters from last year. Last year, Cook started 19 underclassmen. And they're all back this year. Some of them were freshmen. Some of them were sophomores. So you've got them back for a year, at least a year, maybe 2 years. So look out for Cook. Speaking of Cook, punters don't get enough attention. And Flint, my man, I don't know if you have heard about Cook's punter, Brooks Moore. But as punters go, he is an absolute weapon.
Yeah, I have not heard about him, Phil.
Now, punters and kickers are rated a little bit different. They get a 4 and 5 star rated, but they get the Coles kicking. Usually the Coles kicking camp.
Mm-hmm.
Or the other prominent kicking camp. So it's a little bit different, like your 4 or 5 star recruits in position players.
Right.
Let me tell you, if you have any doubt, take a look at St. Thomas Aquinas. They always have a punter that gets recruited by the D1 colleges. In fact, the punter at Texas right now is a St. Thomas Aquinas graduate. The name escapes me right now, but they got another one that is being highly recruited. So if you ever in Brooks Moore, listen, you get a good punter, and I'm talking about exceptional, not just good, but exceptional. And that's what Brooks Moore is. Last year, he pinned several teams down inside the 20-10 yard line. It makes a difference. So he's going to be one to keep an eye on this year. AJ Hill checking us out says, hey, Phil, you don't think Big Crisp is a sleeper team? Actually, I do. Now, I didn't remember, I only included 5 teams. But yeah, I believe Crisp is a sleeper. And let's talk about Crisp. Crisp, one of the more impressive showings over the spring. They go to Wayne County this past Friday night. And Crisp won 33-9. That was one of the games the teams did keep score. And look out for Crisp. So, AJ, absolutely, I believe. And the only reason that I didn't include them when I wrote that story, that was before I had a chance to see them with Coach Newman in the spring. We got over there and saw day 1 of their spring football practice. And then, of course, they ended spring, as I just mentioned, going on the road over to Wayne County and picking up a big win over a good Wayne County team. That's a long trip to take, by the way. But you've got the Slimp kid, big, tall lefty, looked really good. I think he threw 4 touchdown passes is what Coach Newman told me. And, man, look out for, is it Deshaun Fed, AJ? The big 4-star receiver that Crisp has got. That's going to be a fun connection. Hooking up this year in the passing game for Crisp County. I think Coach Newman is going to be one of these new coaches that's going to really make a difference in the state. Remember, he was the defensive coordinator for the state champion Carver Columbus Tigers. Coach Jimmy Hughes, the athletic director at Crisp, brings him over this offseason, makes him the head coach. Very impressive. Had a chance again to see their first practice a couple of weeks ago there up in Cordele. AJ Hill says, yes, it is Fed. Absolutely so. Crisp County going to be a team to watch. Kavion Patrick says, have you heard anything on Valdosta? But listen, guys, I'm just going to be honest with you. I haven't. I don't get a lot from Valdosta as far as news-wise. I would love for those guys to give me some feedback, and I'd love for some of you Valdosta fans to check out or to check in here on the show and give me some feedback. We've been wondering about the quarterback situation there at Valdosta, who you got taking over for Todd Robinson. I will say this. I have maintained this, and I've maintained this in the past, and I'll maintain it moving forward, guys. I think Valdosta, year in and year out, has some of the best talent in the state to work with. I don't think it's going to be any different this year. And I think as long as Shelton Felton can find a way to coalesce that talent, get them playing together. I thought they had the talent last year to go a long way further than they did. But they got behind early to Carrollton. What was it? Third round game? They got behind early to Carrollton. And that's the second year in a row that's happened, by the way, losing to Carrollton in the playoffs. So they've got to find a way to get over that hump. But again, I'm just on the record for saying Valdosta has got the talent year in and year out to go further than they have. Obadiah Farley talks about the other team in Thomasville. Obadiah says, I think Thomasville Bulldogs beat Worth County. If anybody's got an update on that, got a score on that, if that's true, that's huge. Because Worth County is a team to watch. They were, in fact, one of those 5 teams I just talked about that I wrote about as 5 dark horse teams to watch for in 2025. You got the state's number 1 quarterback, at least in their classification, in Lyndon Worthy. How about that? Lyndon Worthy from Worth. It's like it was meant to be. But yes, I think Worth County. And then listen, you talk about the positives of spring games, and again, teams will jump on any positive that they can take. On the flip side, if you lose a spring game, don't get too down. Don't put too much credit or take too much out of it. That is, if you lose. That's the beautiful thing. You get to choose however you want to approach it. You lose, so what? It's just a spring game. One thing's for sure, you do have all summer long to get better, and that's the next step a lot of these teams will be taking, of course, is 7-on-7s. I will say this, a lot of the coaches I ask about if their next step, how active a lot of these teams were going to be in 7-on-7s. I see a trend with a lot of these coaches electing to do more of the OTAs, the 11 on 11, the more of the padded camps. After all, that does mimic real football more so than the 7 on 7s. I just think the 7 on 7s, look, they serve their purpose. But now you've got teams that are, man, they want to win a trophy. And you got to remember the 7 on 7s should be a part of the development process. But teams are taking it serious, man. They want to go to, they want to go to these big 7 on 7 invitational tournaments where you got multiple teams. And look, they want to come back with a trophy. I get it. But remember, 7 on 7s were developed, were put together to develop your passing game. I wrote a story about 7 on 7s not long ago. You guys can go back and check it out at ITG Next Georgia, where a lot of coaches talked about this very thing. They talked about 7 on 7s. They teach some bad habits. So check it out if you get a chance. That's my take, though, on 7 on 7s. Let me hear from you guys. If you haven't commented already, let me know you're checking out the show. My man Vincent Kearse. What?
Yeah, I just saw that. Phil. I don't know if that's true. That's huge. That is huge if that's true. I don't know. That's crazy, though.
So breaking news, if it's true, and listen, I have no reason to doubt my man Vincent Kearse from Sumter says Carver Columbus head coach, that's Pierre Coffey, is gone. What in the world?
I don't see why. I don't even know what to say. I don't. That's crazy. If that's true, that's I mean, you just win a championship, you get your pieces back. You're going for another one realistically this year. That's crazy to me, man.
Yeah, and they're going. That's crazy. Yeah, it is. Listen, I think I reached out to him yesterday. Want some comments on it. No, I didn't hear from him. Don't know what that means. Maybe not anything, but that's something we're going to keep an eye on.
We'll keep an eye on that, guys. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. We're not saying it's true or anything yet, but we are going to be a hawkeye on that for sure. Because if that is true, that's crazy, Phil. That's a shakeup, right? I mean, what? That's just weird, man.
Pierce is saying that he's now the Stewart County Assistant Superintendent and Principal. Now, if that's the case, it's a step up.
Yeah, wow.
I can't blame him for that, but wow. Yeah. Talk about timing, right?
Yeah, wow. Who replaces him, you think, Phil? One of the coaches already on staff, you would think? Or
I would think.
What happens? It's so close to – I mean, not so close to season, but we're getting there, right? I mean, plans are in motion for sure.
Yeah, now everybody's confirming it, and I trust all these sources, by the way. These are football people who I trust. Yeah. They're great sources for me, including Oscar Miles, who's very close to the situation there. Oscar saying, yeah, he's gone, left for assistant superintendent and principal in Stewart County. So I do believe the story now. So, guys, I'm going to right away ask y'all just what Flint put out there to me. Who gets that job? Who is at the top consideration for that job? Flint, I would think at this point you've almost got to go because of the timing of it. You've got to go from within. I mean, you got to get somebody that's familiar with the kids, familiar with the system, that's not going to shake things up, because that thing could run on automatic pilot with the right coach right now, and that would be an assistant. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you kind of just play it, Phil. I kind of look at this as kind of like when you have one of those really good NBA teams, and the coach gets fired all the way into the playoffs, and then they throw a guy in there, and he kind of facilitates things. I really don't think Carver needs, anything crazy. You need a guy they know, a guy they trust, a guy they can rally around, and I think they'll be fine.
Agreed. So while I know Carver will miss Pierre Coffey, great man, great coach. His success speaks for itself. But again, they got so much talent that you can bring in, simply promote us an assistant and let that thing keep rocking and rolling.
Phil, did you see where Steven said that? Where Steven said, rush pros to Carver Columbus.
What was that? Was that Stephen Wynn? Which Stephen was it? Yeah, my buddy Stephen K. Wynn, who says, hey, I'm just leaving the office. Well, didn't you just step into it, Stephen? Stephen says, I just left the office. Checking in from Trojan Nation in Leesburg. So Stephen K. checks out the show, and boom, there it is. The offers his opinion. Hey, listen, guys, and we keep this. Now it's kind of become fashionable for everybody to automatically put Rush Probst into any kind of opening. And I'm going to bet, and you guys know how close I am to Rush, I'm going to bet the house Rush Probst will never return to Georgia. He's not coming back. Rush has made his hay. He's home. You got to remember, although he had a lot of success here in Georgia, but Alabama is home. He's behind the scenes. I think at this point in his life, his career, this is where he wants to be. Because gosh knows, Rush has been in the spotlight enough, hasn't he? Flint shaking his head, yes. He's been in the spotlight enough. Some of that not necessarily wanted. Some of it he deserved. But he certainly also is a heck of a coach. But I think Rush he's done his thing and he's ready to ride off into the sunset. He's got a great wife by his side. He's got really nothing to prove. Built a great program at Hoover, built a great program. In fact, he built the program at Colquitt County. I've said this before. I'll say it again. That legacy, the legacy of Rush Probst, lives on. And it always will. He took Colquitt County from a mediocre program. I'm not saying a bad program. I'm saying a mediocre program. 6-5, 7-4. Well, he took Colquitt County from here to here. And I mean, he put it on a whole new level, and that program continues to run off of his success today while he's long gone way out of the picture. That's what happens, though, when you turn a program around and you get the whole mindset reestablished, guys. So Oscar Miles, Stephen K. Wynn, I think the heck not. I'm going to kind of fill in the word there, brother. This is a family show after all, Oscar Miles. We don't want Rushy Rush. He's not coming back, Oscar. Don't worry. But although I don't know why you would not want him. The man's been a winner everywhere he's been. Adam Hips adding, it's got to be one of the assistants talking about who's going to be taking over. In case you're just joining us, this shocking news. I know I could see the look on Flint's face, the look on my face. I'm sure said it all when we got wind of the fact that Pierre Coffey apparently has moved on from his position as head coach of the state champion Carver Columbus Tigers on to sounds like more of an administrative role going over to Stewart County. And listen, if you're a head football coach, that's what you want to do. You want to aspire to move up the ladder into an administrative role, and it sounds like that's what Coach Coffey has done. We wish him all the best. Now the question is, who fills the mighty big shoes of Coach Coffey? Obadiah Farley, speaking of Rush, speaking of Colquitt, Obadiah Farley wants to know, was Justin Rogers the head coach after Rush? He was. And then, of course, after Rush, it became Sean Calhoun's job. No, I'm sorry. It was Rush, Justin Rogers, Sean Calhoun. There we go. And they continue to win. I'll tell you, that's a trio of pretty good coaches there. We're winding down the show here, guys. What a great show we have had. Seems like it has gone by quickly, and indeed it has. We'll stick around about 5 more minutes with you guys. Your chance to get some of these last comments in. Another team I want you guys to watch, McEachern. They were another one of my teams, dark horse teams to watch. Well, McEachern looked good. And, guys, you will not believe the talent and the depth at running back that the McEachern Indians have. Remember, Kareem Reed, the coach there, former Griffin coach. Kareem Reed now up at McEachern, and they're going to do good things. In fact, 2 of my dark horse teams played each other in that game, McEachern and Kell. And you had McEachern winning it 35-10. They have got a slew of top-notch running backs. So they're a team to watch. Parkview, Roswell, a couple of new coaches. Parkview, of course, you got Adam Clack. Adam Clack is the man that built Milton into the true empire that they are now. Adam Clack going to try to do that same thing, try to get Parkview turned around. And gosh, guys, let me tell you, if Adam Clack can pull off a miracle like he did at Milton, imagine what he can do at a program that's not far removed from winning as Parkview is. My buddy J.T. Thompson, the former Lee County offensive coordinator, his first go-around with Roswell in the last 10 days of spring practice. They also had an inter-squad scrimmage. Remember, Coach Thompson, J.T., is going to have one of the state's best quarterbacks in Trey Smith, the man leading the Roswell Hornets offense. All right, last few minutes of the show. We'll try to get some of these last comments in before we step out of here. Courtney Oliver says Vincent Kearse, Coach Rogers is going to Carver. I'm going to call that fake news. I'm going to quote our president. It's fake news. It's fake news. That's all it is. All right, that's all the politic talk you get from me. Is that AJ or Al Hill? Says Tift County looks good, possible region champs or runner up. Listen, I'll say this. We started off with Tift. We'll kind of end with this. Man, everybody is high on the Tift County bandwagon. Can Tift County make the playoffs? I know a lot of you are talking about us runner up in the region. Let's take it easy. Baby steps. I'll tell you this. Jeff Littleton, Coach of the Year. What a job he's done already. He's got Tift County fans. Listen, half the battle he's already got in Flint. I'll let you close out the show with me here. Half the battle is getting the fans excited again for your football team. Tift County has had, if you've ever been to a Tift County game in the last 4 or 5 years, especially under Coach Dean, great day in the morning, 3/4 of that stadium was empty. Well, I promise you, there's so much excitement now surrounding Tift County football program. That stadium is going to have a lot more people in the stands. That's going to mean a lot more for the bottom line, the pocketbook. After all, the football program, carries a lot of the teams financially. So I think you've already won half the battle in getting people excited again for Tift County football, Flint.
Yeah, Phil, I have not heard this much talk. You can contest this about Tift County football in 5 years? At least 6 years. So I'm excited. And and also too, Phil, it's the Tift County environment, that stadium, that field. I like it. It's fun. They should be good. Everybody expects them to be good. Now Littleton's got this hype train kind of going. We're talking about them every single week without even trying to. So they're doing something over there, right?
And Will said, Flint, those facilities at TIFT, they've got the natural grass. They've got a beautiful, huge stadium. So definitely doing a lot of things right over there at TIFT. All right, guys, that's going to wrap us up for Extra Point with Phil Jones and, of course, my man Flint Dykes producing the show. Guys, I hope to have you guys back next week to check in with us once again right here at Extra Point, ITG Next Georgia. Be sure to follow us at ITG Next Georgia, all of our platforms. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter if you've not subscribed already. Doesn't cost you a dime, guys. It'll come straight to your email inbox right now once a week. We'll go back to 2 times a week once football season comes in. But